Okay, good morning, friends. We have a very interesting topic today that is based on the Gemara we learned on Daf Kuf Zayin, and really very noigea to the Zmanei Teshuva that are upon us. The Gemara brings machlekes. The Mishnah discussed a husband who went Lemedinas Hayam. We don't know if he's alive or dead, and the question is, could his wife be supported from his estate? Rav says yes, poiskin mezainos le'esh hasish. Shmuel says ein poiskin mezainos le'esh hasish. Shmuel said, moida li Abba. Abba is moida to me. Then the first 3 months we do not support her. The reason why we don't support her in the first 3 months is because ein adam meiniach beisai reikam. A person would not leave his house empty-handed without supporting his wife. So therefore we assume during the first 3 months he left her sustenance. So it's interesting that the words that Shmuel used was moida li Abba. Abba is moida to me. Who's Abba? Abba is Rav. So I want to just bring to your attention the various perushim in the Rishonim, what Rav's name was, and I want to share with you a Gemara in Masechta Yuma, and this Gemara is a very powerful Gemara for this time of the year, relevant to the name of Rav. So let's get this all up. So first of all, on the side of the Gemara in my edition, it quotes the various perushim. The first perush is Abba. Abba means chaveri, my friend. Kamay avrech. Abba lamalka, friend of the king. Abba is a friend. By the way, Reb Shimon Schwab says that the word av means a friend, and the main job of a parent is to be the kid's friend. So Abba is friend. Shmuel has a right to call Rav his friend. That's what Rashi says in Shabbos on Daf Nun Gimel. So his name was Rav. And Abba was just a title. He's my friend. Or Rashi Yevama says on Daf Nun Zayin. Rashi says Mishum dekashish minei. Rav was older than Shmuel. Karilei Abba, he called him Abba. K'may lashain nesiye v'Rebbe. So his name was Rav, and Abba was a title because he was older than him. However, the Rashbam in Baba Basra gives a different pshat. And that is, the first two Perushim are saying his name was Rav and Abba is a title. So the Rashbam says no, Abba was his name. Rav kacha yeshamai. Rav, his name was Abba. Kedekarile b'shchitas chulen. Like we say in shchitas chulen, Abba aricha. So in other words, his name was Abba. Ta'minan man reish sidra bevavel. Abba Aricha. His name was Abba. V'amrinan b'mesaches nida Rav Aruch b'doirei haya. So his name was Abba. V'hayde karilei Rav. Why was he called Rav? K'mashe karin Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi Rebbe be'Eretz Yisrael, just like they called Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael. Karilei nami b'Baba Rav. V'chein matzasi Aruch b'Sefer Aruch Hamuva Meiroma. That's what I found in the Sefer Aruch. Rabbi Aruch was Rav Nosson ben Rabbi Yechiel. That is brought from Rome. I was at his house in Rome. Anyway, another thing I just want to bring to your attention is, if you remember, who wrote the Zohar HaKadosh? Rabbi Abba. Rabbi Abba is Rav. When we say Rav Tanuhu Palig, Rav is the author of the Zohar HaKadosh. Stam, it's interesting. And by the way, in the humble Sefer, Al-Akadim Eranini, the Zohar HaKadosh says that to learn Kabbalah, you need to be a ben to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, it's appropriate that the author of the Zohar, who makes Klal Yisrael Banim Lamakayim, his name is Rabbi Abba. Okay, so was his name Abba or was his title Abba? Yeah, we have 3 Perushim here. You have Rashi in Shabbos, Rashi in Yevamis, the Rashbam and Baba Basra. Rashi always says his name is Rav. Abba is a title, either friend or elder statesman. The Rashbam says no, his name is Abba. He's called Rav like Rebbe. So I want to share with you a Gemara. And this Gemara is in Yuma Pei Zayin. And this Gemara will have a very strong bearing on whether his name was Rav or his name was Abba. And this comes from the Sefer Koich Veyar of none other than Rav Itzela Petterberg. As I mentioned this morning in the morning shir, that during this time of the year, Rav Itzela is one of my favorites. When I was a bacher, it was really had a very special place in my heart. Naskil Bina v'Nesboinei Noid, Rav Itzela Petterberg. This is in Koich Veyar Maimer Hey. The great chayv of tshuva during the days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Lashuv Lefnei Hashem Yisbarach L'Huschared Alavai Noisav. He quotes the Gemara. Okay, you ready for this Gemara? Reb Zera ki havale milsa b'hadei inish. Reb Zera, when he had a quarrel with someone, have a chalaf v'tani l'kamei yomamtzilei. Reb Zera would hang around that person, in before Yom Kippur, ki heichi denesi v'neipak midate, so that the guy would go out and ask for forgiveness. Because, the guy's not going to make the phone call and ask Reb Zera for forgiveness or go to his house. This way, Reb Zera provided a service. I'll go to you and you ask me for mechila. Rav havale milsa b'hadei ahut havcha. Rav had an issue with a butcher. Lo yasol kamei b'mali yom kippurei, and the butcher did not come to him on Erev Yom Kippur. Amar iyu ezel ana lefuselei. He said, I will go to console him. I will go to console him. Paga be Rav Huna. Rav Huna met Rav. Rav Huna is a Talmud of Rav. Amar le, Rav Huna said, Lehecha kazama, where's the master going? Rav, where are you going? Amar le, lefiyuse leplani, I'm going to be Mefayes the butcher. Amar Ezel, Abba, lemiktal, nafsha. Abba's going to kill someone. Now, Rav Huna is the Talmud of Rav. Does that have any bearing on the subject at hand? If Rav Huna is the Talmud of Rav, if his name was Abba, that would be very difficult to say Rav Huna would call him Abba. Would Rav Huna call Rav by his name Abba? On the other hand, if Abba means friend or father, but his name is Rav, if Abba is a title, that makes more sense, right? Meaning this Gemara seems to indicate Abba is a title, not Abba was his name. Why would Rav Huna call... Rav Huna is younger than Rav. Why would he call him by name? Anyway, Azal v'kami lavei. Rav went to the butcher. Have a Yosef kapali reisha. So he was cracking open skulls. He was a butcher. Dali eini v'chazi. He lifted up his eyes and he saw Rav. Amar lei, Abba, you're Abba? Zil, get out of here. Leslie milsabadach, I have nothing to do with you. Immediately, Bahadi the Kapali Reishi, as he was cracking open the skulls, Ishtamet Garma, a bone slipped out, Umachye Bekue Bekale, and it struck him and it killed him. It struck him and it killed him. Bekue means his throat. It struck him in the throat and it killed him. Rashi says that Rav and Rav Huna and Rav Zera would make themselves available to those who sinned, maybe they would ask for mechila. And Rav passed in front of him. The lashon is chalef v'tani. He would repeatedly pass in front of him. And with the butcher, Rashi says, Ka'azal Abba, Abba's going Rav. Lemikto nachsha. Says Rashi, now you're going to be punishing him to die. He was breaking heads, he was breaking the bones, and it struck him in the throat. So Vitzla Petrog wants to know, where did Rav Zera and Rav learn this saintly practice that if somebody insulted them, they should go to the one who insulted them to seek reconciliation, and if they don't reconcile the first time, they pass by a second and third time? I understand there's a halacha that the person who needs to forgive should not be an achzar, but there is no such halacha that the person who was aggrieved needs to go to the person who did the insulting and make it easy for them to ask for mechila. Where did they get this from? There's no such halacha. The halacha is, if you have to ask for mechila, The one who you hurt should not be stubborn and should not be obstinate, should not refuse to grant mechila, but that the sinner should make themselves, that the one who was offended should make it easier for the person who is asking for mechila? Wow, what great chasidus this is. Aye hamakar v'ashar. Where does this come from? That Rav should go to the butcher? What?
It's lifnim or something.
It's lifnim. I mean, it's like, yeah, but it has to, you know, doesn't it have to have a source? Where did they learn this behavior from? It's unusual. It's very odd. I mean, is it maybe even wrong? Is it extreme? I mean, let's say, would it be correct to, after October 7th, to go serve food to the terrorists? It's l'fnei mishuras hadin. You know, there is a threshold of normalcy, right? So, where did Rav and Reb Zera learn this from? So the Rabbi Tzula says the yesoid of this type of l'fnei mishuras hadin, as you're calling it, of this chasidus, they learn from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does to Klal Yisrael. We are the ones who sinned against Him, and yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes Himself available to us during Aseret Yimei Teshuva. Hashem comes to us, and He passes by our house, and maybe regularly, you know, we would have to make a long distance call. Are we going to do it? Are we not going to do it? During Aseret Yimei Teshuva, Hashem comes to us. Says Rav Itzla, Hinei kvar hivesi lamala divrei harambam. I've already brought the words of the Rambam that even though Teshuva and Tza'aka is always good, during the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's even better, and it's accepted immediately. So Rabbi Tzla asks, if Teshuva and Tza'aka are always good, because the gates of Teshuva are never locked, and nothing stands in the way of Teshuva, what's the reason why Hashem makes Himself more available now? And the answer is, even though Hashem is making it easier for us to do tshuva, He's making Himself available. Yes, now when you do tshuva, it's accepted immediately. But what would happen then if when tshuva is more easily available, we still refuse to do tshuva? Says Rav Itzla, Mimidas rachama v'chasadav shal kadosh baruch hu. Hashem is not always available to us, and therefore tshuva is not always easy. But God knows our Yetzer Hara, and He knows our atzos, and He knows maybe we're not going to want to travel the distance, and we're not going to want to do tshuva. So Hashem has mercy on us, and therefore He makes Himself extremely available between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because Yom Kippur is the last chance, and Hashem deals with us l'fnei mishuras hadin. And therefore we say, Dirshu Hashem behi matzai. Seek out Hashem when He is available. These are the 10 days between us, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So, says Rav Itzla, Nimtza ki darkei hachasidos shel Rav Rab Zera. This manner, this practice of saintliness of Rav and Rab Zera, shehemtziu es atzmam lemi shechatu lehem, that they made themselves available to those who sinned to them. V'hiskarvu elav leman pen biyoisam kroivim al makam achoitei. So that maybe when they're close to the sinner, Yasim Achoite Alibai, Levakish Mechila Slicha, the sinner will say, you know what, I really need to ask for Mechila. This is Mamish, the Midah B'Kadosh Baruch Hu. That when a person sins, and Hashem's not always available, so it's our job to do tshuva until it's accepted. But because maybe the sinner won't want to do tshuva, therefore Hashem makes Himself available so that it's easier for us. But the problem is, says Rabbi Tzula, it's a double-edged sword. Because when tshuva is easier, yes, it's easier, but what if you don't do it? We see from the story of the butcher. Friends, what do you think would have happened to the butcher if Erev Yom Kippur would have passed and the butcher would not have asked Rav for Mechila, and Rav did not visit the butcher? What do you think would have happened to the butcher? Maybe not much. But because it was so easy for him to ask Rav for Mechila, and he still didn't ask for Mechila, therefore the butcher had a very severe repercussion because he's not going to do tshuva even when it's easy. So on the one hand, Rav is making it easy for him to do tshuva, but when Rav Huna saw Rav, he said, Rav, you're not making it easier for him to do tshuva, you're going to kill him. Because Rav Huna didn't think the butcher would do tshuva. And in that case, Rav is going to exacerbate the punishment of the butcher. You know, the Meshech Chochmah writes that don't be so quick to say Shachianu. The night of Yom Kippur, you're going to say Shachianu. Shachianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Baruch Hashem, you merited Yom Kippur. It might not be a good thing that you merited Yom Kippur. It's a good thing if you take advantage of it. If you don't take advantage of it, you're better off without it. Because if you didn't have Yom Kippur, okay, so you didn't do tshuva, but at least it might not have been so easy. But now that you have a Yom Kippur and you still didn't do tshuva, maybe you shouldn't be making that Shachianu, the Meshech Chochmah says. So it says Rav Itzla, umizeh naskel bina chachma umusar. From here we could comprehend understanding, wisdom, and musar. Al choivas hatshuva b'yamim elu. Our great obligation to do tshuva during these days, and especially Yom Kippur. When we see what happened in the end to the butcher, that he was punished ba'oinesh kasha ma'od. Says Rav Itzla, ki hineim lo haya Rav hoylech itzal tabach. If Rav didn't go to the butcher, afim atabach hoya meineh asas melech itzal Rav. Even if the butcher had not gone to Rav, lefaisoi, to console him, levagshman v'chila. Or what would have happened, friends, if the butcher would have randomly met Rav in the street and he didn't ask for a mechila? Probably not much. The butcher probably would not have been punished this way. However, midas chasidusoi v'an v'sanusoi sharav leilech ulahamtzi es atzmai itzal tabach. The saintliness and the humility of Rav to go to the butcher, he shepaga by batavach. That's what struck down the tabach. Like Rav Huna said, Azol Abba lemikto nafsha. Abba's going to kill someone. Ki al pidachi asechel. Because logically, kirois hatag lefanavas Rav. When the butcher saw Rav, hayaloi lehispal mizeh. He should have been astounded. He should have fallen on his feet, on Rav's feet, and asked mechila. But when the butcher still had the audacity and the stubbornness to remain in his rebellion and not ask mechila, that's why he was punished so much. So what does this have to do with Kesuvos Daf Kaf Yud Zayin? We'll look at the Marsha. V'chein kasa b'chidushay Marsha. In Yuma, that the tabach was punished because he sinned against Rav. He should have consoled Rav when it was easy. However, Masha Kasav Shamoi, that which the Marsha says in Yuma further, that there was another allegation against the butcher. The butcher called him Abba by his name. Like the Rashbam says in Baba Basra, his name was Abba, and the butcher had the audacity to call him by name. The Marsha says, Gam shazilzul barav l'kari b'shmai Abba. The Marsha learns that part of the reason why the butcher was killed is because he called this great rabbi by his name. Says Rav Itzla, Eino Nachain. The Marsha is not correct. Because then Rav Huna also called him by name. Daha Rav Huna Amar, Azal Abba l'mikdal nafsha. Was Rav Huna prophesying that the butcher would call Rav by his name? So I understand that maybe Rav Huna would call his colleague by his name, but why would he do that? Why would Rav Huna do that? Was he prophesying that that's what the butcher would do? Furthermore, the Tosfos Rishonim in Yuma writes, slightly different than Rashi in Yevamos and Rashi in Shabbos, the Abba hayaderach kavod. Abba was an honorific, like Avi Rechav Yisrael, like great rabbi. So it's different than Rashi in Shabbos, that it means friend, or it's different than Rashi in Yevamos, then it means Rebbe. Okay, similar to it.
I mean, why can't it be both? What did Rab's son's children call him? If his name was Abba, did they call him Abba?
They called him Tati then.
No, so I'm saying it could be that the Tabach said Abba because he was referring to Rab's first name, and it could be Rav Huna said Abba because he was referring to him as Abba, the honorific.
Yeah, but
why does it have to be?
if his name was Abba, it would be doubtful that they gave him the name Abba also as an honorific. What they called him, Abba? Like, we know that he also had if his name was Abba, then that's a very unusual, that's a very strange thing to do, that he had an honorific, and the honorific was the same as his name. Like, I understand that Rashi and the Rashbam could argue, but in the time of Rav, when he was alive, only one of them was right. It can't be, it's either one or the other, right? So, furthermore, the Tosfos Shanim says Abba was an honorific. Otherwise, he says, Rav Huna, the student of Rav, would never call Rav by his name Abba, so Abba must not be his name. So basically, Tosfos Shanim proves, like Rashi against the Rashbam, that his name was not Abba. Abba is definitely an honorific. Otherwise, why would Rav Huna call him by his name? Rav Huna was the student. So the Rabbi Glatstein says, that the reason why the tabach was punished is not because he called him by name. Because Rav went to him. And I would say, that's why the butcher was saying, hey, Abba, meaning you honorable one, get out of here. Meaning, I don't care that you're honorable. That's what I would say. In other words, whatever Rav Huna said, Azal Abba, meaning Rav Huna wanted to be respectful, I would say. Because it says, the Gemara says, Rav would have this practice, and Rav Huna said, Azal Abba l'mikdal nafsha, like with all due respect, great rabbi, you're going to kill him. And I would say that's what the guy was saying, with all due respect, great rabbi, get out of here, I have nothing to do with you. And the reason why he's punished is not because he said his name. He was stubborn. V'amad b'mirdai v'loi pisei l'Rav. V'zeh sh'amar Rav Huna. This is what Rav Huna meant. Azal Abba l'mikdal nafsha. That Abba, the great rabbi, is going to kill someone because he said it's very likely he's not going to ask you for mechila. So says Rabbi Tzala Firzois that if the practices of Chasidus, of Rav and Rab Zera, that they made themselves available to those who sin against them, this is the midah of Hashem, this is what Hashem does to us during the Asar Simei Teshuva, we need to take advantage of this opportunity. Because what we see from this Gemara is the very frightening repercussions of, yes, it's very magnanimous of Hashem to go out of his way and knock on our door when we were the ones who sinned against him. But on the other hand, it puts a very big onus on us. And that is, we better take advantage of this opportunity. Nimsa ki imbechoze yiksha adam es libay v'yamitz es ruchai v'yimna milashav elav, even on Yom Kippur, which is kates mechila uslicha. Then harei oisa chalila kamase hatabach leneged Rav. He's chalila, doing like the deed of the butcher against Rav. And he's like saying to Hashem what the butcher said to Rav. Zil, Leslie Milsa Bahadach, think about what we're telling Hashem if we don't do tshuva during Asar Simei Teshuva. And if it was such an audacity for the butcher to tell Rav, then what do you think it is when a human being of flesh and blood does this to Hashem? How great is the sin? How great is the guilt? Says Rav Yitzchak Petterberg, Manoira harayon hazeh lamamik ba. How awesome is this thought to one who deeply delves into it. So, on the one hand, Hashem is making it very easy for us to do tshuva, but the repercussions are frightening. Says the Meshech Chachma, we had in this week's parsha, Nasati lefanecha es hara es habracha v'haklala hachayim v'hamaves ubacharta b'chayim. Ask the Meshech Chachma, it's interesting, in Parshas Re'eh, it's Re'eh anoichi noisein lefneichem hayom bracha u'klala toivara. Why in Parshas Re'eh are the two choices blessing and curse? And in Parshas Nitzavim, the stakes are much higher. It's not just blessing and curse, it's life and death. Yeah? Netanyahu said the two choices are blessing and curse. That's before this week's parsha. After this week's parsha, he should go back to the UN and say there are two choices. There's life and death. Why was it only blessing and curse in Re'eh, and now the stakes are higher? Says the Meshech Chachma, in Re'eh, there was no mitzvah of tshuva. There was no opportunity to do tshuva. If you don't have the opportunity to do tshuva, if you do the right thing, it will be good. If you do the wrong thing, it will be curse. But it won't be death. But now God says in Parshas Nitzavim, Ki ha-mitzvah hazois asher anochi mitzvah hayom lo neflesi mimcha. I'm giving you the mitzvah of tshuva. Oh, you have the opportunity to do tshuva, and you don't capitalize? The stakes are not blessing and curse. Now it's life and death. That's what Rav Itzla is saying. Once tshuva is easy, you better take advantage. Okay, so that's a good excuse to do this Gemara in Yuma. Talking, our Blat brings up that Shmuel said about Rav, Abba, Moideli Abba. By the way, I also think that from our Gemara, it implies that it's an honorific. Because if you're saying it by name, Shmuel is saying, so-and-so is Moida to me. Isn't it more mashma? Not, my pal named Abba, but the great rabbi would be Moida to me, even in the first 3 months, because Ein Adam Maniach Beisoy Rekan. Rabbi Isai, have a great rest of the day. Kol Tov. Bracha v'atzlacha.
It's an interesting point that the butcher was working on the head.
Yeah.
Before Rosh Hashanah, he was cutting up the Rosh Hashanah for everybody.
Oh, very good. Yeah, it's a good one.
Recording